Hey guys, this is Brandon White from Rochester Sport Fishing. So I just got back from my 6-day, 5-night walleye trip up in Ontario, Canada, and basically what I wanted to do was make a series going through each night, tell you what the water conditions were, weather conditions, and basically go through step by step each night what I did, what I changed to when one thing wasn't working, what I switched to. So basically this video right here is going to be an intro into the next 5 videos covering one video covering each night. Basically this video I want to accomplish going through what I would do on a normal night and the steps that I would take, where I would fish, the structure I would fish, and then what I would move to next, what baits I would use in those spots. So basically this video is going to cover just the general night out fishing if somebody asked me what I would do, when I would do, and what I would use during those times. And then the videos after this, I'm going to talk about exactly what the weather conditions were and how I fished it that night, what steps I took to find fish, if we found fish, and I'm going to have obviously videos in there of me catching fish on those baits, on those type of structures, and etc. like that. So I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible, and hopefully I can answer some questions, and this will be a good intro video into the generalized category of night walleye fishing. So basically this is going to cover, at least for me, when I night walleye fish, the best times in my opinion are, again, depending on water temperature, but the last week in May and then up until the second or third week in June. This is my go-to tactics. Not to say that you can't catch walleyes before this or after this using these tactics, but this is when I think is the prime time to catch them using these tactics, and these tactics will continue to work, but a lot of them are going to be shallow water tactics, and in some lakes, bodies of water, you're going to get a ton of weeds, and these tactics aren't going to work, so you're going to have to switch it up. They would work during the early spring, but again, as I've mentioned in some of my other videos, the walleye season doesn't even open until the first week or first Saturday in May usually. So, and that's usually 6 or 7 days into the month. So I can't even start fishing them until then. So these tactics will work in them, but this, I'm specifically focusing on the prime time and specifically the time that I was up there and what I did during those times. So I'm going to get right into it. Normally in this time of the year, the water temp is about 65 degrees in previous years when I've gone up to this body of water and fished. This year was 72, so it was way warmer than it normally is. On a typical night, I start at about 7:30, and that's only because I know I'm going to be fishing until usually about 2 o'clock in the morning. You can start earlier. I've just had the most success starting around that 7:30 time, even 7 o'clock. You could start earlier, but I feel like the sun is still a little bit too high for the walleyes to start moving up shallow. Again, if the body of water you fish on allows you to fish a little bit earlier because of the depth structure, go for it. This is just what I do. So what I do to start off with is I'm casting lipless crankbaits, so your rattle traps, and your swim jigs off of drop-offs and islands. So to give you guys a couple ideas of what I'm talking about there, the swim jig that I'll normally use, and you've heard me mention before, is I will use this New Tech Lures Pro Series head. This is a 4/0. I think it works 4/0 works a little bit better for walleyes, and with their specific heads, they run a little bit truer. They stay running this way. They don't get snagged up as much. A typical jig, as you've heard in my other videos, will fall on its side and it gets snagged. So anyways, I stick with this jig. This is a 3/8 ounce jig, and I usually put the Kitech 3.8 inch swing impact fat when I'm rigging my swim jigs up. Colors that I like, but again, doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to work for you guys, is the generic, what they call sight flash, which is their white. Bluegill flash works great, and any of those like shiner type colors work great around this time of year. What I also throw, like I said, is the lipless crankbaits. I would either suggest the Red Eye Shad by Strike King. I personally like The Yozuris, as you've heard in my other videos, this is the Yozuri Vibe 3DB. They have a little bit better hooks. The paint job's going to last you a little bit longer. They also make a smaller version. This is the Rattling Vibe. This is a little bit tinier version, which I also will use if the bite is slower. I think maybe a cold front came through and I want to use a smaller bait. Again, I'm going to be starting anywhere on these drop-offs and islands. I'm going to try to be in deeper water if you can find it. So if you can find that 20 to 25 foot of water, and casting into the shallow area and bringing it back to you. So obviously the lure is going to land, it's going to be in shallow water, and then it's going to work to deep. Keep that in mind, because as the speed that you're reeling at, you want to continue to work that tapering drop off. So you're actually going to want to either stop reeling at certain points to let it sink back down into the water column, or you're going to want to reel slower as you bring it back to you. That's where the jig sometimes helps, because you can bounce it off the bottom and make sure you're staying on bottom contact. I basically do this until it starts to get dark, which is approximately, this time of year was about 8:30 to 8:45. I start to move in slightly up on these drop-offs that lead into flats. What I then do is I cast the flats with either a jerk bait or a swim bait. What I had my most success on were these following baits. This one's actually broke. That's what happens when you fish at night. You tend to break lures. This is the Yozuri 3DB jerk bait. I hit the lip on the side of the boat, so that broke off there. But this was I was catching a ton of fish on this guy before it broke. I use either that one or I use the 3DB shad. That was also working good for me. The colors that I just showed you were the ones that worked the best. And then last, what I was actually surprised that worked so good, but I do recognize that the company's good, is this specific Sebile, what they call a swingtail, I believe. Yeah, swingtail minnow, 3 1/4 inch. This worked. This is a jerk bait. This worked absolutely awesome. This one dives 3 to 5 feet. The jerk bait I showed you dives 5 feet, and the shad style jerkbait dives 6 feet. This caught a ton of fish, but only on specific nights. There was other nights where those kind of flashy prism styles work better, and then there was nights where these painted colors work better, and it was one or the other. They either wanted the flashy or they wanted the painted colors, and every night was slightly different. So quickly getting back into it, basically I'm casting these up onto the flats and then move into...
I don't know what that means.
And Siri is now talking back to me. I don't know why. Siri, I'm going to shut you off. So I then move into trolling, which is around, when it starts to get dark, around 9:30 or dark, whatever time it happens to be. And basically I'm going to start trolling flats, or I'm going to troll these drop-offs islands that I was just fishing. And basically what you want to do is you want to start deep and make specifically the flats. You want to start deep and make sure you're working into the shallow water. You want to make sure that by time your lures are getting to that real nice drop-off or the flat itself, you want to make sure that they're in the water, they're running good. So that's why I like to start in the deep water and work shallow. Don't specifically on the drop-offs, I don't like to start shallow, because by the time you get the motor going, by the time you get the line out there, by the time it dives down to the depth you want, you've already lost a ton of space. And at that time where it's just starting to turn dark, a lot of the walleyes are still going to be on that, hanging on that transition on the drop-off, and then there's going to be some of them that are up on the flats. But like I said, you want to make sure that you're starting in the deep water and have your line set before you reach that shallow water. The walleyes are cruising back and forth too. That's another key thing. They're not just sitting there. Walleyes typically don't just sit there like a bass will sit under a dock. The walleyes are going to keep moving. So you want to make sure that you hit that drop off, because there is going to be a lot of them still hanging out there no matter what time of the night that it is. I typically don't troll any shallower, at least this is specifically trolling with my boat. I don't go any shallower than like 6 or 7 feet. Now if I'm casting from shore, then yes, I will go shallower than that, but when it comes to trolling with a DV boat, I don't like to go any shallower than that, so that's something that you can go off of. And then when you get off the flat and maybe you're heading back into deep water, even if your graphs all of a sudden says 20 feet, most likely your baits are still back there, and your baits are still coming at 6 or 7 foot of water, maybe 10 foot of water, and they're going over that drop off. And again, like I said, the walleyes are hanging on the drop offs. So make sure that you continue to go and go a good distance. Don't just stop your boat the second that it hits 20 feet and then just hurry up and reel your lines in. Brings me to another point. When you're trolling, just walleyes tend to follow the lures for a very long period of time, and sometimes they hit them, sometimes they don't. And little twitches, when I'm hand trolling or long line trolling, I'll just give a little twitch like this every once in a while, and that will trigger a strike. I'll do a long sweep and then let the lure back. That'll also trigger a swipe. So when you're reeling your lures in, when you're done trolling that area, maybe you're going to swing around and then go hit that hump or that drop off again. Make sure that you don't just hurry up and crank the lure back in. Make sure you do it nice and slow, just as if you were reeling in a jerkbait that you had just casted out, or a regular bait that you had just casted out. So that's another key thing that's helped me out a lot. Basically, if the fish are hitting that spot though, don't leave. Stay on the fish until they turn off. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you're not catching fish, move. I don't care if you've caught fish in that area before. If they're not on, you can always come back to it. But if they're not there, I'd give a spot 20-30 minutes, and if you don't get a single bite or the fish aren't there, shoot to the next spot. Either come back to it or go to it a different night. They don't need to come to the same spot every single night, and that's one thing people do. They either stick to a lure that they've had success in the past and it's not working and they just keep it on the line, or they stick to a spot that they've had success in the past and it doesn't continue to produce, and you waste time, you waste a night. You need to go find the fish. At this point now, after I've covered those drop-offs that I was casting before it got dark, now I'm basically just going to move to my shallow, long flats. If you can find a flat that the wind is blowing into, hopefully there'll be minnows there for one of two reasons. Either the wind itself is stirring up plankton or any bait fish food. The bait fish then move in to get these bait fish type food, and then the walleyes then follow them. Or if it's a heavier wind and the bait just in general gets pushed up onto that flat, and then the walleyes chase them in there because they're confused. So either way, usually wind-blown flats are good. Weedy flats or rocky flats are good, but not heavy weedy flats, as those typically are very hard to troll and they're very hard to cast at night. It's hard to continue to clean off your lure all night long, obviously, of course, with it being dark. I like the expansive flats because you can cover a lot of water quick. A key is that if you are trolling and you want to get on fish fast, if you're trolling and you hit a fish, either mark that spot or reel that fish in and cast that spot again. Don't continue trolling, depending on what the expansive flat you're looking at, you're trolling over looks like. If it's a shorter expansive flat that you can just keep going back and forth, then just keep doing that. But if it's a really, really long expansive flat that you could be trolling for a heck of a long time, if you hit into that fish, either keep going and then swing around right away, or stop the boat, reel that fish in, and then cast that spot, because they usually, as most of you know, the walleyes hang out in packs, so that's what they're going to be using. Again, don't stay in an unproductive spot long, even if it's been productive in the past. And then I usually will troll a ton of expansive flats until I find fish. If I'm still not finding fish, then I'll try mid-lake humps or drop-offs again, same as I was talking before, starting in the deeper water, moving over the top of that flat, and then trolling over the other side of it. Flats, mid-lake flats or mid-lake humps, one of the two. Change up your depth. Going deeper or shallower is a key thing. Your speed and your trolling speed or your retrieve speed, change up your cadence. Don't just continue to go the same speed all the time if you're not catching fish. I typically like to go around 1 mile an hour, but it does not hurt to go down to like 0.7. It doesn't hurt to go up to like 1.5. Those are typically the long line trolling speeds that I like to go to. Again, change up your retrieve speed and your cadence. If you're casting, do a twitch pause, do a really slow retrieve, do a fast retrieve, do a bunch of twitches, so just twitch, reel a little bit, twitch, reel a little bit, and you don't have to pause in there. You can do all kinds of cadences, as you know. Try running shallower lures deeper. Try obviously deeper lures deeper. Try running try going a little bit shallow or casting in the shallow, almost right up on the bank sometimes. Whatever you got to do to find the fish, that is the key. Don't be scared to change color, whether it's holographic colors, chrome colors, natural colors, transparent colors. Don't be afraid to change size and shape, whether it be shad or minnow, whether it be balsa or plastic, whether it be rattles or no rattles. Again, length, anywhere from like 3.5 inches all the way up to like 6 inches. I'll move to baits all through that, and I will show you some now. And a key thing is never run the same lure unless it's absolutely killing fish. Do not run the same lure on both sides of the boat. Use something different until you find a pattern. The worst thing you can do is put on the same lure and have both of them be unproductive. You want different colors, different styles, and just try to get on that pattern as quick as you can. So really quickly, I'm going to show you some of the baits that I use, and hopefully to give you some hints. What I'll typically do when I'm trolling is I'll have the shallower sided line. I'll usually run like a 3.5 inch Yozuri. They have some colors that are holographic and non-holographic. The one thing about Yozuri, even though I do love their lures, is they don't have painted colors. So sometimes I will try. I don't usually go right to painted. That's usually like my last choice, and that's really if they're really turned off. But I'll run a 3.5 inch on one side, and then I will run the 4 3/8 on the other side. The 3.5 goes about 3 to 3.5 feet down. The 4 4 3/8 lure goes about 4 to 4.5 down. So as you can see, the difference in the two lures right there. This, what they call blue mackerel, has worked really good for me. The green mackerel too has worked great. They make both of those with a prism top and a holographic top. And I will also, my dad's all-time favorite trolling lure is the Smithwick Rattling Rogue, but the floating style, which is almost impossible to find now because all they make is suspending, and he just feels like the suspending don't work as good. They're more of a casting lure versus a trolling lure. If you're not familiar with those, this is what the Rattling Rogue looks like. This is our favorite color, the blue top with the orange bottom, silver chrome through the middle. What I do sometimes to modify them is I will switch to 2 hooks only and put larger hooks on it versus having the 3 hooks for a couple main reasons. The more hooks you got, the easier it is to catch on weeds. I tend to notice that hooks with 3 trebles, the hook tends to get caught on the bill more often, and that's more trebles that you need to pull out of a net at night when it's dark, or pull out of the carpet of your boat if you have carpet at night in the dark, and it's just wasting time, wasting fishing time, wasting your own time. And if the mosquitoes are bad, the last thing you want to do is have a light on, if you know what I mean. To give you guys some other examples of lures that you can use, or lures that have worked for us in the past, the patented Husky Jerk has worked really good to you. Kind of what I was talking about before is having translucent colors. This is like what they call like a ghost color, but as you can see, it's see-through. You can see the rattles right in there. We've also had good luck on the Long A Bombers. That's another one of our go-tos. The Storm Twitch Stick, which is a little bit shorter but fatter presentation. That's also worked good. If we're trying to really decrease our size and go somewhat similar to that 3.5 inch Yozuri, we'll go to like one of these little Challengers, 3.5 inch Challenger. Let's see, what else have we had luck on that I can show you really quick. Again, just changing colors. Those are pretty much the lures that I stick to. When I'm trolling, I just like something between that 3.5 and 5 inch range. Changing color, style, patterns. I also do I don't have any right here, but the Rapala Shad Wraps work really good. Basically, you just want something with a very nice wobble to it. Nothing. I haven't had luck with anything that's too erratic. You can work. You can use some if you have some trolling broken back lures. You can also try those. But basically, that's the lures that I use. That is the pattern that I follow structure-wise. If I only had one night to fish, that's the exact way I would hit those spots. I basically talked about the spots that I would hit first in the night, all the way up to the spots that I'd hit last, and then obviously you just stick to what you're using, or whatever's working, you just stick to that for as long as you need to, and don't be afraid to go back to those spots later at night and hit them again. So like I said, this is basically just an intro. I'm gonna have 5 videos that follow, but they're all gonna be shorter. They're basically I'm gonna tell you about each night. What I did have some videos of us catching fish on each of those nights, and we were productive in every night, but some nights we were way productive than others, and we had to switch up tactics to make things work. I know there can be a lot of things to go over when we're talking about night walleye fishing, so I hope I covered as much as I possibly could in a quick video. Please leave questions, comments below if there's a specific video you want me to make on a specific topic about walleye fishing, or specifically night walleye fishing, which is what this video is focused on. Don't hesitate to ask, leave the comments below, and thanks for watching. God bless.